Hey, this is Jamey, and today I'm going to be talking about my favorite mechanism in Imhotep the Duel. I have played Imhotep, the original game, and really enjoyed it. I think Phil Walker-Harding is a fantastic designer, especially when it comes to set collection. He designed Sushi Go and designed Archaeology, and both are great set collection games. But I think Imhotep does something really interesting that I haven't really seen in a set collection game, and particularly for a two-player set collection game, and that is the way the tile selection process in the game works. I really thought this was very clever. Basically, the entire game board is this, plus some ships that end up here, 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 here. So this is a 3x3 grid, and each row or column corresponds with a ship that is loaded up with 3 random tiles. And on those tiles are things that you're collecting to get points throughout the game in different ways. On your turn, one of the things that you can do is place a worker on an unoccupied square, one of the 9 unoccupied squares on this tile. And once you've done that, once there are at least 2 workers in a row or column, you can pull off, you can use your turn to say, okay, I'm going to unload the ship in that row or column, and you gain some tiles. I won't explain exactly how that works, but you gain some tiles from those workers and from the ship, and the ship gets reloaded with tiles. Now, the thing that I didn't really realize until I played it was that there's a wonderful tension created here, because if, say I put a worker here at this corner because I want something from this ship right here, I need to make sure that I actually either use a turn to choose that ship once there are 2 workers in this row, or ensure that no other worker, well, you can't even really guarantee it, but I need to be careful of other workers going in this column here, or this, I guess row column, we'll call them rows or columns, whatever, here, because if there's at least one more worker here, my opponent could decide to use their turn to unload this ship instead. And so whereas basically each worker is looking at 2 ships at all times, and there's probably one ship that you want a little bit more than the other. So there are 2 aspects of this that I really like. One is that everything is good. No matter what happens when a ship is unloaded, you're going to get something pretty good. Everything results in points. So there's nothing that's really bad that happens from unloading a ship, even if it's not the tile that you specifically wanted. However, there's also this wonderful tension of, because each worker can technically apply to 2 different ships. And that tension of deciding, do I want to keep putting more workers on this board and therefore get more tiles when the ships are unloaded? Or do I want to be the one to say, this is the ship that we are unloading now, to guarantee that I get the tile that I wanted from the ship that I wanted? I think that's just a really, really clever tension. I haven't seen a grid system like this used before for worker selection tile placement in this way. It's just a wonderful tension to be able to look at both the rows and the columns at all times and have that tension provided as a result. So I think that's really, really clever, and I think it's I just think that's a really, really clever mechanism. I think it works really well for a 2-player game. I don't know if it would work as well for a bigger player game, but maybe with a bigger grid it could scale up to more players. But I also think it's really clever because this isn't at all in the core game for Imhotep. This is something unique that Phil designed for Imhotep, which I think is fantastic, or Imhotep the Duel, which I think is fantastic. So yeah, that's my favorite mechanism in Imhotep the Duel. If this reminds you of a mechanism in another game, I'd love to hear about that in the comments below. Or if you have a different favorite mechanism in Imhotep the Duel, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks.